Please join me in a spirit of prayer. With hearts overflowing, we give thanks for the seniors before us, gathered together as a class in this sacred space, 4 years now past, quite the same people as they were at the start, and yet not at all. From these pews have gone before them generations of women and men so like them, seekers of knowledge and of wisdom, curious of mind and heart, who have left this chapel to use what they learned at Princeton to build their own lives of integrity and meaning and service. May our graduates of today know always that, like those who have gone before, they go forth with our trust, our affection, and our hopes for a better world of their own making. May this lovely hour of contemplation and all of these final hours together strengthen all our commitment to be servants of truth and instruments of justice. Amen. Please be seated.
Good afternoon, and welcome to Princeton's 264th Baccalaureate service, which makes it one of our university's very oldest traditions. It is also one of the most reflective, a pause between the hoopla of reunions and the pomp and circumstance of commencement. This is a time to contemplate the remarkable journey that you will formally complete on Tuesday, a journey that has expanded your horizons beyond anything you could have imagined when you first set foot on this campus. You are certainly older, hopefully wiser, and most importantly, superbly equipped to change our nations and all nations for the better. None of you could have made this journey alone, so now it is a time to give thanks for the professors who challenged and inspired you, for the classmates who sustained you on good days and bad, for the deans, coaches, conductors, chaplains, and other mentors who brought out the very best in you, and for all the unsung heroes of our campus who eased your lives in countless ways. Last but not least, this is an occasion to salute your biggest fans, the parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, and second cousins twice removed, whose faith in your abilities and pride in your accomplishments were like a strong wind at your back. With their help, you have kept the spirit of Princeton burning brightly. May it always light your way.
Namaskar. That which is of the divine in me honors that which is of the divine in you. I offer a reading from the Taittiriya Upanishads. Having taught the Vedas, the teacher says, "Speak the truth, do your duty, neglect not the scriptures. Give your best to your teacher. Do not cut off the line of progeny. Swerve not from the truth, swerve not from the good. Protect your spiritual progress always. Give your best in learning and teaching. Never fail in respect to the sages. See the divine in your mother, father, teacher, and guest. Never do what is wrong. Honor those who are worthy of honor. Give it faith, give it love, give it joy. If you are in doubt about the right conduct, follow the example of the sages who know what is best for spiritual growth. This is the instruction of the Vedas. This is the secret. This is the message."
This is the 93rd surah of the Muslim Quran, the chapter of the dawn. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنهر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. In the name of God, the most benevolent, most merciful. By the bright morning hours and the night when it grows still and dark, your sustainer has not forgotten you, nor is displeased. For, indeed, the end will be better for you than the beginning, and, indeed, in time will your sustainer grant you, and you shall be well pleased. Has God not found you an orphan and given you shelter, and found you wandering, and guided you, and found you in need, and given you sufficiency? Therefore, never treat the orphan with harshness, and never turn away the seeker or beggar, and of your sustainer's blessings, remind and proclaim.
A reading from the book of Psalms. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament shows forth God's handiwork. Although they have no words or language, and their voices are not heard, in the deep has God set a pavilion for the sun. It comes forth like a bridegroom out of his chamber. It rejoices like a champion to run its course. The law of the Lord is perfect and revives the soul. The testimony of the Lord is sure and gives wisdom to the innocent. The fear of the Lord is clean and endures forever. The judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether.
A reading from the letter of James. But be doers of the word, and not hearers only, deceiving yourselves. For if anyone is a hearer of the word, and not a doer, he is like a man who observes his natural face in the mirror. For he observes himself, and goes away, and at once forgets what he was like. But he who looks into the perfect law, the law of liberty, and perseveres, being no hearer that forgets, but a doer that acts, he shall be blessed in his doing. If anyone thinks he is religious and does not bridle his tongue, but deceives his heart, this man's religion is vain. Religion that is pure and undefiled before God and the Father is this: to visit orphans and widows in their affliction, and to keep oneself unstained from the world.
Like the remarkable city he leads, Michael Bloomberg is a man of many parts: entrepreneur, philanthropist, and public servant, Democrat, Republican, and independent. New York's 108th mayor is among her most accomplished. In the words of one of his predecessors, Ed Koch, his achievements have been enormous. All mayors are measured against LaGuardia. I would not be surprised if ultimately all mayors are measured against Bloomberg. Whatever history's verdict, Mayor Bloomberg has already left an indelible imprint on New York, to say nothing of society at large, thanks to the success of the company he founded, Bloomberg LP, and the exceptional reach of his generosity. But this success was by no means a given, even for a precocious Eagle Scout who studied engineering at Johns Hopkins and business at Harvard before joining the Wall Street firm of Salomon Brothers. In 1981, in the wake of a corporate merger, he lost his job and took the risky step of forming his own company, beginning, as he put it, with 4 employees, a one-room office, 1 coffee pot, and 0 customers. What a difference 30 years make. Today, Bloomberg LP is one of the world's foremost financial services and media companies, with some 300,000 subscribers and 13,000 employees around the globe. Not only has it fulfilled Mayor Bloomberg's founding vision of using new technologies to bring transparency and efficiency to the financial marketplace, it has also given him the means to dramatically enhance the lives of others. Last year alone, Bloomberg Philanthropies contributed more than $279 million to 970 charities, building on a tradition of giving that stretches back to his days as a cash-strapped college student, when he made donations to the NAACP as it struggled to desegregate the South. And while he is a loyal Blue Jay and a generous patron of Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, let it be noted that yesterday many of you paraded proudly through the colorful archway of Bloomberg Hall, which is named in honor of his daughter, Emma, a member of our own great class of 2001. 2001 was also the year in which our speaker took another major risk, running for mayor of America's largest and some would say most rambunctious city. Despite his lack of prior political experience, or perhaps because of it, he was elected, re-elected, and elected again, winning the respect, if not always the agreement, of most New Yorkers. He took his first oath of office while the city was still shaking from the terrorist attacks of September the 11th. But under his energetic leadership, New York rebounded. In addition to stimulating economic activity, improving governance, and combating risks to public health, especially tobacco, Mayor Bloomberg breathed new life into the city's troubled public schools, refusing, as he put it, to simply rearrange the deck chairs on the deck of our educational Titanic. In these and many other areas, he has displayed a principled independence, taking positions that he believes are in the best interests of New York and indeed our nation, rather than choosing the path of political expediency. He has, for example, been a vocal proponent of generous immigration policies, a leader in domestic and international efforts to combat climate change, and a co-founder of Mayors Against Illegal Guns. But perhaps his finest hour was his eloquent defense of the right of Muslim Americans to worship near Ground Zero. Muslims, he declared, are as much a part of our city and our country as the people of any faith, and they are as welcome to worship in Lower Manhattan as any other group. That is the voice of New York at its best, and I am delighted it will sound on our campus today. Please join me in extending the warmest of Princeton welcomes to the Honorable Michael Bloomberg.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, President Tillman, for that kind introduction. When you're talking about a warm welcome, I didn't know that you meant it literally as well as figuratively, but I can see everybody waving their programs. I promise you I will not do what the commencement speaker did at Johns Hopkins in 1964. He talked for about an hour. They were literally carrying people out from the sunstroke. At least you don't have the sun to work with here. Anyways, I am, good afternoon to the great class of 2011 first, particularly you down there. I'm very honored that you invited me to give this year's baccalaureate address, even though I hear that I was your second choice. After that junior on the basketball team who hit the game-winning basket against Harvard, Doug Davis, wherever you are, thank you for not being available. I really welcome this opportunity, and I wasn't going to give it up for anything, so I've worked very hard on my remarks since you invited me. I met with my thesis advisor last September. I have been churning out 80 to 100 pages, and turned it in right before the deadline, the second week in April. I even got it bound by Triangle Partners. So I really am raring to go. And I showed up last night because I didn't want to be late, hoping to settle in and get a good night's sleep. Only when I arrived, you were apparently having some type of pagan beer-drinking festival. I can just tell you those orange and black tank tops and jockey shorts are really quite something. And after all that, I couldn't find a place to sleep. I couldn't even get into Bloomberg Hall. But I found something to pass the time. It was karaoke night at the Ivy Inn, fortunately. And here I am today, still in good voice and ready to offer some thoughts that you graduates will undoubtedly cherish word for decades to come. First, let me just remind you there's another group, and I'm talking about your parents and friends and relatives who are here to support you this day. Nobody does anything alone. I've given this talk before and said the way to be really successful is to get the words I and me out of your vocabulary and change them to we and us, because nobody does anything by yourself. And your parents are just sitting out there trying to think what it costs to get you through this and what happens if you don't get a job and have to move back home. And thinking about, after traveling hundreds of miles, thousands of miles to be here today and paying more money than they want to remember, to be told that they have to sit outside. Parents, for those of you watching by television, I've been there. When my daughter Emma graduated, I was dying to know what the inside of this chapel looked like. Anyways, graduates, I'm sure you're happy to be moving on, but this final weekend I know will inspire more than a few bittersweet emotions. No more lawn parties after you leave here. You'll have to start paying to do your laundry. No free lunch in the real world, or in your case, no free brunch with a lavish omelet bar. I know life can be cruel, graduates, but even worse now, here's the thing that you're really going to regret. Next year's seniors are slated to get the highest grades in Princeton history, since Dean Malkel is also leaving. You know, timing is everything. Still, let us focus for a few minutes on the bright side of your departures. This is a moment when you inevitably look back at the past 4 years and remember all the good times you've had, all the challenges that you've had to overcome. And it takes place, appropriately enough, on Memorial Day weekend, when we as a nation also remember. We remember the men and women who served our country in uniform and who gave their lives to defend our country and guarantee our freedom. And they died so that you and I can say what we wish, worship as we wish, and live as we wish. So before you embark on your new adventures beyond Fitz-Randolph Gates, let me just take a moment to remind you what obligations that we have to those who died, what responsibilities we have to carry on. First, we must remember that it is up to us, not just our military, but all of us, to stand up and defend it when we see freedom threatened or denied. And that's why, for instance, I've spoken out in support of Ai Weiwei, an artist who was scheduled to open an exhibit in New York City, but who has been detained indefinitely by Chinese authorities. It's why, as your president mentioned, I've strongly defended the rights of New York City's Muslim community to build a mosque and community center in Lower Manhattan. And it's why I'm urging the New York State Legislature to support a bill that would grant marriage equality to all men and women. For me, this is an issue of fundamental freedom and fairness. And the fact that your generation overwhelmingly supports marriage equality is one of the reasons that I really am hopeful for the future of our country. Your generation is tearing down walls here at home, and if you think about it, across the world. The revolution for freedom that now spreads like wildfire in the Arab world burned with the anger from decades of suffering and repression, but they were lit, in part, by technology that was developed by your generation. No other generation has started revolutions halfway around the world. Yours has, and we're only just beginning. There may be no greater way to repay those American soldiers who died for our country than to spread the freedoms Americans enjoy around the world. So when you leave here, keep it up. The more we give people the opportunity to express themselves, the more we tear down the barriers to full equality, the brighter our future will be. As we stand up for the freedoms our soldiers have died protecting, we also owe it to them to do what's best for our nation, not what's easiest or most popular. In 1917, in its address to Congress asking for a declaration of war, your fellow Princetonian, President Woodrow Wilson, said, "What's right is more precious than peace, and we shall fight for the things that we have always carried nearest our hearts." This is the kind of courage and determination that built our nation, that made America a beacon of liberty and a laboratory for progress. And yet, in government, too often what's right is less precious than winning re-election. Now, coming from the private sector, I never cease to be amazed by how many highly intelligent people follow the party line instead of doing what they know in their hearts to be right. Don't you fall into that trap. Don't play by their rules. Don't follow the crowd. Don't fool yourself into thinking that one party is 100% right or 100% wrong, and that the other party has no chance. History shows that no party has a monopoly on good ideas or God on its side. Don't forget what you've been taught here at Princeton. You have all been fortunate to be part of an institution that's always put an emphasis on practical thinking, real-world solutions, and sticking to the facts. Don't forget that, because there's no better way to understand problems and solve them. The extreme partisanship in Washington is hurting the country on issue after issue. And the big problem with partisanship isn't that the two sides disagree on everything and nothing gets done. It's that they actually agree on about 75% of the issues, but they'd rather fight to score political points than to make peace and forge progress. Nevertheless, I think it is very encouraging that independents are the fastest growing bloc of voters in the country, and I'm especially encouraged that young people like you are leading the way. It is another sign that your generation is ready to create a brighter future for our country and our world. I'd like to ask you to remember one more obligation that I think we owe those who have made the ultimate sacrifice for us. It's something that all of you are familiar with. It's part of Princeton's informal motto, in the nation's service and in the service of all nations. And I'm talking about service and volunteering. I think one of the most encouraging things to come in the aftermath of 9/11 is a renewed spirit of service in this country. Americans of all backgrounds, but especially your generation, want to do more to help the world. And they have. Lyde Paterno, for instance, graduated from Princeton 5 years ago, and with the help of his classmates, has worked to improve educational opportunities in a small village in northern Tanzania. Rishi Jate Lee, from the class of '04, has founded a national nonprofit with the goal of boosting the economy and fortunes of one of America's hardest-hit states, Michigan. And I have no doubt that your class will produce its own special entrepreneurs who will strive to change the world. In my life, I've found that service is one of the most rewarding things you can do. It's what led me to take the biggest challenge, the biggest risk of my life, running for mayor. And today, as someone who is in position to see up close the real impact of public service by millions of New Yorkers, I can tell you, every minute of service helps in more ways than you can count. As busy as you will be in your careers as you start families, always find time to give back to others. It is the glue that binds us together as Americans. And the fact that your generation is more active in service than any before it is incredibly hopeful and encouraging as a sign for the future. So on this Memorial Day, on a weekend you'll never forget for the rest of your lives, remember not just the soldiers we have lost in battle. Remember what we owe them. Make the most of your freedom and defend everyone's right to it. Seek the truth by asking your own questions and coming to your own conclusions. Give back, and you will be repaid many times over. And in everything you do, work hard, take risks, and do what you love, and also try to figure out ways to get paid for it. Never stop learning. Never compromise your integrity. Never give up. And all of this applies whatever your next step after graduation may be. Whether you're about to enter the world of banking and finance or, well, I guess that pretty much covers everybody here. No doubt, you're going to have to face some very challenging times. This country and this world is facing challenging times. There are revolutions taking place all over. The old paradigm is changing. Today, we ask people to get an education thinking that's going to solve all the problems, and yet there are an enormous number of people out there with educations around the world that are struggling. But your talent, your energy, your vigorous commitment to the truth is what will carry you through all of that. So congratulations. Be very proud of what you've accomplished, and look with optimism to what you really can do to change this world. God bless.
Please rise. Blessed are you, O God, creator of life. You give us purpose and hope. Blessed are you, eternal truth. You give us minds to know you in the things that you have made. Blessed are you, source of all mercy. You know our weakness and are always ready to forgive. Blessed are you, lover of souls. You bind in one community the living and the dead. Blessed are you, wellspring of all wisdom.
Let us say together the prayer for Princeton. O eternal God, the creator and preserver of all things, we beseech you to bestow upon this university your manifold gifts of grace, your truth to those who teach, your joy to those who learn, your wisdom to those who administer, your laws to those who hold its mission and its work in trust. By these gracious influences of your Spirit, bind all who bear the name of Princeton into the company of those who know your steadfast love. Amen.
The following is a passage from Pirkei Avot, the Ethics of the Fathers, a compilation of ethical teachings of the rabbis. Ben Zoma taught, "Who is wise? One who learns from all individuals, as it is written, 'From all of my teachers have I gained understanding.'" I will now recite the Shechianu, the Jewish prayer recited in thanks for or in commemoration of special occasions, first in Hebrew, then in English. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Praised are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who has granted us life, sustained us, and enabled us to reach this day.
The following is a reading in a secular humanist tradition from Jack Kerouac's On the Road. What is that feeling when you're driving away from people and they recede on the plain till you see their specks dispersing? It's the too huge world vaulting us, and it's goodbye. But we lean forward to the next crazy venture beneath the skies.
The following is a passage from the Bhagavad Gita, one of the keystones of Hinduism. The Bhagavad Gita is a dialogue between Lord Krishna and the warrior Arjuna. It discusses an array of spiritual and philosophical topics. From chapter 4. Better than any ritual is the worship achieved through wisdom. Wisdom is the final goal of every action, Arjuna. Nothing in the world can purify as powerfully as wisdom. Practiced in yoga, you will find this wisdom within yourself. Resolute, restraining his senses, the man of faith becomes wise. Once he attains true wisdom, he soon attains perfect peace.
A blessing from the Christian tradition, taken from the Apostle Paul's letter to the Colossians. That you may be filled with the knowledge of God's will and all spiritual wisdom and understanding, so that you may lead lives worthy of the Lord, fully pleasing to him as you bear fruit in every good work and as you grow in the knowledge of God. May you be made strong with all the strength that comes from his glorious power, and may you be prepared to endure everything with patience, while joyfully giving thanks to the Father, who has enabled you to share in the inheritance of saints in the light. Amen.
Receive now this benediction. Go now to give voice to visions, to daringly flesh out dreams, to fulfill your destiny in the world. Go now with an abiding awareness of the long stretch of memory, reminding you that you stand upon the shoulders of others. Live a life teeming with meaning and purpose on the good days and the good days. Go now with the sovereign God guiding you, the language of hope inspiring you, the gift of our love enfolding you, as you face the inevitable realities of life, and you will. My young friends, go now to offer your diverse, resplendent, intellectual gifts, birthing anew the spirit of Tikkun Ha-Olam, which means to repair the world. Go now, step across the threshold, let the journey commence. Amen.